Hey, welcome back to the Fortitude Show. And today's guest is going to really break a lot of paradigms around finances, around investing, around what to do to build the money machine that we all crave, but we don't know how to fully make. And our guest, Mel, is someone that does that. I was blown away by the knowledge you're about to hear from him making it simple. Not just teaching theory, but he actually will give you step by step on what to do. If you're only able to invest $5 or $50, you don't need to be this big investor to start what he shares, and you're going to really dive in. So if you're just starting in life, or maybe you are a well-experienced investor, you're going to learn some higher level tactics, but you're also going to hear him really share about what it means. What is the means to the end of this money? And how does that really apply in your life to create a life where you know when to pull out money, when to not pull out money? What are these joy principles that he talks about, and how to set a standard so you can actually live that life today, even if the money isn't there yet? And you also get to hear some very inspiring stories about him almost dying, going through one of the toughest battles of cancer. Life was great. Everything was great. No signs. And dealing with one of the most difficult calls he's ever had, and how he overcame that. What was the mindset shift? And you're going to hear just so much more that really, if you've been struggling with understanding finances, or you're not good with statistics, this is the episode for you. He really blew Emily and I's minds, and I know it's going to really make you feel like you're equipped, because we felt equipped, and I know you could feel equipped. So I'm excited to share this with you. So without further ado, here's our guest, Mel Abraham.
Well, Mel, it's incredible to have you here. We appreciate you, Emily and I. And, as I'm flipping through your book right now, there's so much to unpack. I saw a quote, though, that stands out so near and dear, which is from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And it says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Why did you pick that quote?
I think that so many people I see today are struggling with their current situation. And I think one of the challenges, media doesn't help, social media doesn't help, because they're polarizing it. And they're getting us stuck there. And so I think that we need to look at things and say, what can I control? And especially in the money space, but just in life in general. Things have happened in my life that I had no control over. And it wasn't until I was willing to accept what happened and accept that maybe I had a role in it, but not blame, then I could move from it. I could learn from it. I could grow from it. And I think that too often we find ourselves just saddled in where we are and believe that this is it for the rest of our lives. It's not.
You had quite a interesting situation happen a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Yeah, in 2019.
You mind sharing on that?
Oh, yeah. So just before that, life was good. I'm traveling around the world, speaking, big stages, masterminding. Life's good. And then I step off a jet. I end up in a hospital bed, and I have a doctor looking at me saying, "We found a 5-centimeter tumor in your bladder. You have cancer." Now I'm like, not a smoker, not a drinker. I have none of the risk factors of cancer. No one in my family's ever had cancer. And I said, this can't be. He says, well, it's not only that, it's on top of the prostate, so we might have to remove the prostate. I can't see the aorta on the right side, so I might have to put a tube and a bag in for the kidney. If it's bad, you might lose your bladder. And he says, and let's not forget that it's cancer. So life's on the line. It's like in a moment, my life just flipped. It caused me to sit back and say, what really matters? Because the fact of the matter is, we grow up in a people telling us, well, you only have a certain amount of time here. And you take it for granted. And then all of a sudden, when you're smacked with your mortality in the forehead, you go, oh, they were serious. And so you start to examine. I started to examine, what do I have left? How am I going to spend it? How am I going to make it matter? Have I made it matter so far? And so I had to look at it and say, well, now, I didn't handle it gracefully at first. We got the diagnosis on a Friday. Saturday, my wife and I cried all day till we had nothing left. And then Sunday, I woke up And I looked at her, we were having breakfast, and I said, these are the cards we're dealt. How are we going to fight it? What are we going to do? And so at that point, we just made a list and said, what can I control? What can I do? What can't I control? This has to be out of sight, out of mind, because I got no agency over it. And so that's what we did, is we put a team together to fight it. And I made all the decisions I could on the things that were controllable and left the other stuff to the powers that had the control over it.
Wow. And was there a moment that things flipped for you? Because, I mean, by the grace of God, I pray that I never have to go through that, nor anyone would want to go through that, right? And you said that there was no previous experience within the family, and you weren't doing terrible things, and you get hit with this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the questions that go through your mind are just endless. Of why, what if, why did it go this way? Like, what was that for you? And was there a pivot for you on? Because you're obviously here now, and you're living life, and you're doing amazing works, and so much to unpack. But what was that for you?
I think for me, I did spiral. You start to ask, what did you? I literally was trying to figure out. I was going through my life and going, who did I piss off? Who did I wrong?
Yeah.
Where did I go wrong? Did I eat something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Why me? Why do I deserve this? What did I do that caused me to be given this? And I struggled with it. And I went through, so I had 2 surgeries, one in July of 2019, August of 2019, had a whole host of treatments in between. In December, they told me, looks like you're good, okay? In April of 2020, though, I went in for a regular scope, and the doctor saw another tumor, so it came back. That's when I actually struggled the most, is because I flippantly just was going in saying, this is a routine scope, don't worry about it. You're just going in. And I didn't think that it could come back, but it just, it slapped me. It said, he said, we got to go in for another surgery.
And that's in the heat of the moment when everything shut down.
Well, and it was an interesting thing. He says, when they tried to schedule the surgery, it was April 24th. Not that they're ingrained in my head. And so the scheduler said, well, we're going to schedule the surgery in June. I said, why June? Well, all the COVID restrictions and all that stuff, and you'll have to go through all this testing. I said, hold on a second. You want to take me in for surgery, put tubes where I don't want them, use a hot knife, cauterize, do all these things that I don't want to have done, and you're worried about a nose swab? And he said, well, when you put it that way, I said, get me in as quickly as possible, and let's get this thing out. So May 6th, I did the surgery.
Wow.
It was hard for my wife because she literally had to drop me off in the parking lot. And she watched me in the mirror walk away, walk into the hospital, and go, I don't know if he's coming out. I don't know what's going to happen. And she couldn't be there. It was probably the hardest thing for her.
What were you thinking in that moment?
I was scared because I wasn't scared of the pain. I wasn't scared of the fight. I was scared that I wasn't going to get a chance to live and love the rest of my life because I loved life too much. I wasn't ready to walk away from it. I was in my 50s. I still had so much in me. My grandkids hadn't been born yet. So it was a tough go, and you just feel so isolated. You're in an operating room, and things are moving really fast, and you're just completely isolated. It's a lonely feeling.
I have one more question on this.
Yeah.
I want you to take over on this because what you just shared right there, I just triggered this. You're in that operating room, dealing with the situation, like they said, it could take your life, right? Cancer. This idea of being so lonely on that table and almost vulnerable and just you have to surrender. Like, did that ever, like, as a man, it just hit me. I was like, did I ever hit you where you're just like, I can't control this anymore. I'm literally just like, my fate's up, like, onto the hands of the surgeons, to God over us. Like, like, was there a moment where you just had to fully surrender, or were you still trying to control things, or is that even maybe irrelevant to what you felt? Because maybe that's what I would have felt. That's why.
Yeah. I think in the second surgeries when I finally said, I can't, because I'm first to tell you, I'm a control freak. And this one tested the boundaries of control. I had no control.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it came back, my diet, everything was regimented. We did all the things. I hit it from Eastern medicine, holistic, Western medicine. I hit it from every direction, and it still came back.
That's a powerful lesson right there.
Yeah.
I think that right there is you can do everything right and still have life happen to you.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing that you're sharing right now, and I know you're the money man. You're the one that helps bring financial freedom, but people need to realize this is more about the money, right? This is about what is the byproduct from the money is the success, the wealth, the freedom, the life. But you did everything right and it still happened to you. And so we could often think in our own little small worlds, be like, oh, well, it's easy for them. But it's like, no, you did it and it still happened, but you're here today. And I just really want to acknowledge you on that. And it's a powerful reminder for me, for everyone to keep going, even if it still hits you across the face. Mike Tyson says it best, right? It's all sunshine and rainbows, so life punches you in the jaw. Yeah. And however he said it, but this is powerful, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Since then, how has life changed in how you operate day to day?
So there was two things that happened. One was finally given perspective to the cancer, and that was this idea of stopping to search my past for the reason I got the cancer. And I had a friend, because he saw me after it came back. We were talking, and I was not in a good place. And he says, "You keep searching in your past, like you did something to deserve this." And I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to find a reason. At least maybe it'll give me some peace that, okay, you're an idiot, you deserve it, and now you got it, and now you have to deal with it." That was a punishment. And he says, "What if it wasn't something you did, but it was something you were meant to do?" And all of a sudden, when I took that in, I said, "Oh, well, now the cancer has meaning. It has value to me. It's a message for me." And that was one main shift. The other main shift was this idea that we've been given slices of life. And the number of slices of life, we don't know how many they are. But I know now, someone asked me, "Did the cancer change you?" Which is kind of a crazy question. Of course it did, you know? And I said to them, "It's easier for me to say no to things." And I said, "What?" I said, "Here's why. I realize that I have a finite number of slices of life. And every time I say yes, I give a slice away. And I never get it back. So the only way I can give a slice away is if I know that I can give 100% of me, my full all, to that slice of life that I'm giving away, and that I expect no less in return from the other side. And unless that's going to happen, the transaction doesn't make sense." And so now I look at it and I say, how do I want to spend the slices of my life? How do I want to make the moments matter? I actually think, even though I talk about money, I said, we should be actually measuring our wealth in how much of the moments we control. So measuring it in time instead of dollars. Because now all of a sudden, the richness in life is how we spend our moments and not how we spend our money.
So good.
And those were some big things. My wife and I, we travel a lot. We try to enjoy the moments. We're busy, but we take the time to make sure that we have the moments that matter.
And the moments matter. And how many years have you been in the game here?
Oh my God.
Like, you've been speaking on stages. You're a legend. So, like, truly so well respected. How many years has it been?
Well, I started my CPA practice. In order to build it, I started speaking back in the 90s. the 1990s.
So that's how you gained clients and
That's how I built my practice. That's how I built my reputation, was speaking, because no one would hire me. They
Right.
said, you don't have experience. And I go, well, if you don't hire me, I don't get experience. And so I just went out and started speaking at all these conferences. And
Walk us through a little bit on that. That's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
Like as a CPA to go and just get in conferences. Like, give us more context.
So I wasn't trying to do the normal CPA stuff. What I was trying to do is I was valuing businesses, buying, selling businesses, and doing testimony as an expert witness, like financial matters. So I was the type of guy that they would hire to put a Bernie Madoff in jail to testify against him. So the attorneys that I was talking to didn't want to hire me because they said, you've never testified before. And I said, well, the next best thing to testifying is let me go out and speak. They'll see me articulate the answers. They'll see me teach and do the things. And I didn't know if it would work. So I literally, what I did back, you're talking about 1995, 96.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just coming in this world.
Yeah. So I literally, at that time it was Elance. It's now Upwork. I hired someone and I said, here's what I need you to do. You didn't have the email, you didn't have the technology. So I said, I want you to go to every bar association in major metropolitan city. I want you to go to their, search them out. I want every CPA association, major metropolitan city. I need the name of their executive director, their meetings coordinator, their conference director. I want their address. I want their phone number. And they put it in an Excel spreadsheet. I had a software called ACT, and I did a mail merge. And I literally just started mailing them these letters. And what I did in the letter is I wrote a 500-word article. I said, here's an article that I think your members would get benefit from. So if you want to use it, feel free to put it in your newsletter. And just do me a favor, leave the byline in. Oh, by the way, I speak on these topics. If there's ever a need for someone, let me know. I'd be more than happy to come into your conference. I know you have a conference coming up.
So you led with value first.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want you, they still got value.
Yeah.
And then you said, but also.
Yeah.
That's a key thing.
And then initially, did you speak for free?
So here's what I did. Yes, I did. Pay the expenses, get me there. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I differentiated it. So what I did, and all I had to do was get one. Then when I got one, I got a letter from them, and I used it to get the other ones. And so there's a reason I have 3 million miles on United. Okay. They know me.
Yeah.
But what I did, so I was speaking for free to get the project initially. So this is an interesting kind of aha. So I was speaking for free to get the project initially. I was writing, I was doing all those things to get the project. If I was speaking to people that needed my services, I was willing to do it for free. If I was speaking to people that wanted to do what I did, then they had to pay me.
Nice.
Because you get paid on the back end for the services.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah, and because the ones that wanted to do what I did, they were going to compete with me. So
Yeah.
So that was my differentiating point with how I did that. But then the big shift was this. I had this tunnel vision of, well, I'm a CPA, and this is how I make money. I sell projects, I do these projects, and I get paid. And someone came to me and said, you're pretty good at this speaking thing. You can make money at it? And I go, what? I go, the only thing I ever got from speaking was an unsatisfactory from my elementary school teacher because it was always in class,
Yeah.
And so I checked out, and as the National Speakers Association, I started to understand. I go, hold on a second. My business model is totally screwed up. I'm so focused on selling a big project that I'm doing all the things on the journey for free to get there, to get the project. But what would happen if I sat back and said, what if I got paid on the journey and got the project? How would that work? So now all of a sudden I started to charge for speaking. So I was getting paid to speak. I was getting paid to write. I was getting paid to workshop, and I was getting paid for the project.
Boom.
And so now all of a sudden I'm going, okay.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's powerful you share that, because I don't know if many episodes or interviews they want to go down that route, but our people are aspiring, right? They see our journeys with our speaking careers. They're entrepreneurs. Maybe they want to speak. So they hear that. And for us, especially for me, it's invigorating to see how back in the 90s, how you did it. And the key thing that stood out is you did lead with the value. Even then, you didn't just say, hey, if you need someone to speak on blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you gave them value, said, use this.
Yeah.
But if you want someone to speak on that, and it's such a powerful tool, what you did.
It was accidental. I'm going, it was out of necessity. I'm like going, how do I have to, because I was a single full-time dad. I had to put food on the table to take care of my son. He was 5.5 at the time. And the other thing that I did that kind of magnified it is 2 weeks before I spoke, I would do a press release. The week after I spoke, I would do a press release. But the beautiful thing about press releases is they're written like third party. It's like a reporter. So they're saying, well, Mel Abraham says. Yeah, but who wrote it? Mel Abraham wrote it. And if you write the press release, so it's a public service announcement. So in the press release, yes, it's talking about the conference you're speaking at, but then you say, here's 3 tips that Mel talks about, this, that. So it's actually educational. The likelihood of it getting published goes way up.
So you would write those and send it to publications?
Yeah. So I would write them and send them to publications.
Dude, this is, I mean, you're listening right now. You think you're going to learn these money tips and all that, which you will. But this is what it's about. This is the hustle, the creative nature, the way you serve your family, your people. Like, the money helps amplify that. But for you, that story, this makes you so much more than just a money guy.
Well, in his personal brand, that's a lot of things that I teach is on personal branding. And a lot of people are like, well, how did you start to speak? And I'm like, I built sales teams and I had to get them to produce. So I served in the small space, like training 5 people. And it's like that, just doing that over and over and over again. Yeah. But I just love how it's like you built this career. It's like you not just good, but great. You set everything up. So it's like, I'm the guy.
Yeah. It's the interesting thing is they started to hire me for these projects. I still didn't have the testimony experience. They just stopped asking because what happened was the perception they got was enough for them to get them over the hurdle. Now, you had to deliver on the back end on results, but I sold myself on a perception and then kept myself in the game by results.
Yes. And the problem with today is most people sell on the perception, but they don't deliver the results. So it's good to have that perception. It's the halo effect Emily talks about, building that, but you have to deliver on that.
Yeah, it's the cognitive bias.
Yeah.
But the truth is you matched it with excellence.
Yeah.
So you came in, delivered, and then you get asked to come back. You get asked to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, that's huge.
And I think the speaking, one, I enjoy it, but it forces me to be at the top of my game. If I'm going to get in front of an audience of 5 to 5,000, I can't mail it in. I can't just, I got to be in the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk finances for a minute. And there's so many people out there, from the Dave Ramseys, we love Tony, but it's, big books and it's complicated. Yeah. And right now, in this given time, in the economy, people are like holding on, scared, the fear, they're freezing. They need your wisdom. How do you think you approach financial literacy different than other people? And why did you write this new book?
I wrote the book primarily because I saw a gap. People feel like money. Well, first things first. American Psychological Association says 72% of people are stressed about money. They say 22% are extremely stressed about money. So if a quarter of the population or 3/4 of the population are stressed or extremely stressed, and then top that off with being raised in an environment where money's taboo, don't talk about it. Wait a second. So we're going to live with this stress that's impacting relationships, which is supposedly the second highest reason for divorce. And I don't think it's money. It's actually the communication around money that causes it. It affects productivity. It affects focus. It affects profitability. It affects your health, your mental wellness, your physical wellness. Why are we not talking about it? And so I just kind of looked in and said, there's things that are missing. One is that I think that the financial services industry has a bias to try and make it feel complicated, so we have to rely on them. Now, I don't sell investments. I don't sell insurance. I want to sell people on their dreams. I come from the financial industry as a CPA, so I understand it. I speak their talk, but I've lived this journey in a much simpler way. And I said, it's not complicated. It's simple to build wealth. It's simple to find the path to financial freedom if we just break it down in simple frameworks, simple recipe, a prescription to follow. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy, because some people's hill is going to be steeper than others, or your boulder is going to be bigger than others. But difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. And so all I wanted to do is write a book, not another money book that everyone else wrote. I didn't want to go into a situation where it was just another money book with the corporate speak and everything. In fact, the publisher, I said, and the editor, I said, the very first part of the book, the only thing I want to accomplish in the first part of the book is I need to give hope. I need to shine the light on possibility. I need them to see the need. I need them to see the consequences. And I need them to feel like they have a friend in this journey. So then we'll teach. But if we don't do that in the first part, they'll put it down and they won't go through the rest of it.
100%.
And so I wanted to simplify it in a way that wealth is accessible to everyone. And so, and I truly believe that wealth creation is less about the money and more about the behaviors and the habits. So something that is confronting for people when they say, well, I got money problems. I say, you don't. What do you mean you don't? I don't have money problems. I said, you don't. He says, you don't know my situation. I said, well, I do. I said, you don't have money problems. You have money symptoms. And they go, what? I said, they're symptoms of the decisions and the behaviors of the past. And I said, I don't mean to confront you with it. I mean to empower you with it. Because all that means is if we just change your habits, we give you the right habits, we give you the right behaviors, you'll get different symptoms, different results. And so now we empower you to do that. There's a study out there, 10,000 millionaires, 31% of them never made much more than $100,000 a year. So it's not about making a lot of money. It's about what we did with it. What were the behaviors around it?
Straight up.
And that's the thing that I wanted people to get from the book.
So you're going to actually walk us through that in the book.
Oh, yeah. I walk through all of it. Now, what I start with, okay, and this goes because of my journey, is you never talk about money without talking about life. You can't detach the two. Because there's plenty of people that I know that have very, very wealthy bank accounts. You know, you look at them from the outside and they go, oh my God, I want that.
Yeah.
You know, they're living bankrupt lives. And I don't want that. I want people to live rich lives, how you experience it, how you feel it, how do you live each of those moments so they're rich and they feel good. Because having a big bank account but an empty life doesn't make sense. And so I can give you the mathematics to building wealth, but if we're not building health, relationships, family, spirituality, all that stuff at the same time, if it's not connected to that, why are we doing it? We're chasing a statistic.
Yeah.
And so the book starts out with, hey, let's define your dream. You know, I had a conversation with someone from the publisher he said to me, he says, I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to afford a house. And I go, really? He says, yeah. And I said, why do you want a house? He says, well, it's the American dream. And I leaned in, I go, I get it. It's the American dream. Question is it your dream? And he says, I never thought of that. He said, maybe you should, because you're not here to live the American dream. You're here to live your dream. So let's define your dream and let's make that the reality. And if it happens to be a house, great, let's make it a reality.
Wow.
If it happens to not be a house, fine. But don't fall prey to what everyone else tells you should do. let's start with the dream and let's create the financial structure and the pathway to make the dream the reality.
So good. Oh my goodness.
What's powerful, I want to just add really quick, and I'll have you continue, is you helped shape that man's ideal of what success means. And the problem why people suffer so much is because they have an ideal that is so far away and they think they're going to achieve it. It's a great analogy. I heard this from Dr. Benjamin Hardy. An ideal is like a horizon.
Yeah.
And ideal is there to help illuminate your life, but it is not the end game, because you chase a horizon, it's never going to get closer. And what his horizon was the American dream. Yeah. And he was having this ideal that made him always feel less than. Yeah. And the moment you asked that question and flipped it for him, you actually not just maybe allowed him to think of his dreams, but you allowed him to feel more happiness right in that moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's powerful to see how you do that. It's really, really cool. Mm-hmm.
I was back home in Minnesota, where I'm originally from, and we were at a dinner, and this group of people are like, "But how do you live in California and pay the taxes?" I'm like, first of all, it's not much different than Minnesota, by the way, and but do you guys rent? Like, you don't own a how? And I could just see like their programming, and I'm like, you just sat and complained about the winter, how cold you are, how bored you are. I wake up every day and stare at the Pacific Ocean. Yep. In fact, my walk in the morning, my gratitude walk, is on the Pacific Ocean. I live in an area that most would only dream of, but because that's my rich life, I will trade off certain things for that. I would rather live and wake up every day in bliss than being like, oh, I got to go shovel the snow. So it's a mindset thing. And I was listening to someone, and they were talking about, like, you buy this coffee every day and how much it is. I'm like, the coffee gives me bliss and joy. I love having my coffee, and it really does spark joy for me. Yeah. So that mindset around that, but also not going too far where you're like a spender, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you use the word joy, and I use the word joy a lot, because one of the challenges with folks, well, you listen to some of the other folks in the money space, and they basically say, you're going to live on mac and cheese and top ramen. And I'm going, I don't want you to do that, because here's what I know. If you don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, you won't enjoy the destination of financial freedom, because you didn't train yourself to be grateful, to be appreciative, to take it in. So the mistake, though, is we live in this socially connected world. We're seeing people on TikTok and social media and all that stuff parading their facades of life around us. And now we make that our dream, our reality. That's what we want to do. And so I look at it and say, here's what we need to focus on. Let's find 2, maybe 3, what I call joy points in life. The things that are visceral, sustainable joys. Like, for my wife and I, it's time together, it's us traveling. So that's a priority in the plan that we create. And so we make that a priority, and we avoid momentary pleasures unless we can afford them. There's a difference between swiping on an Instagram ad and saying, that looks cool, and then 10 minutes later, there's no value in it for you once you receive it, and there's no joy in it. And now, did we forsake something that's really joyous for us for a momentary pleasure because of marketing, because of someone else, because the neighbor got it? And so what I try to get people to do, I'm not one that tries to say, don't spend. I just want people to be aware, conscious, and intentional with what they do, with their life and their money. Because it's not about work-life balance. It's about harmony. Harmony comes from intent. And so being intentional, knowing that today I intentionally lived my day fully, is what allows us to do that. Well, today I intentionally spent my money, invested my money, and did it in a way that fueled the life that I had this vision for. So we start with the vision. The vision defines the plan. The plan will give you a strategy. The strategy will set the tactics. The tactics will put the actions in place. But it has to go from the top to the bottom. Most people will come to me and say, what should I invest in? You're asking a tactic. I don't know what tactics work until I understand the plan, the strategy, and your vision. Because I can give you a tactic, but if it doesn't move you closer to your dream, it's not a good tactic for you.
It's a great distinction.
Yeah.
Someone's sitting here right now listening. They've never invested. They want this financial freedom. They want to do this. They maybe are barely making, let's say, 6 figures a year. Still have a lot of things to take care of, but they're like, I obviously need to start.
Yeah.
What do I do?
So the first thing is the choice, the commitment. So making investing a priority. That means we move it to the front of the line. And so what I look at is that our future, the future we want, should define our present. We don't plan our future from the present. We actually plan our present from the future, because that tells us what we should be doing to make sure that we have it. And so that's the first thing. Now, let's just talk tactically for a moment. I said before that finances and building wealth is more of a behavior. So what I want people to do is get in the game. So even if this person's sitting back saying, I barely have $5 to invest, that's good. That's good. Let's just take $5. Because what we're doing is exercising the muscle and in exercising the habit, because the 5 will turn into 10. So at the very base, I'm going to turn around and say, just start putting money aside. Start by putting it in a high yield savings account.
So when people say, well, where do I put it?
Yeah.
What's some recommendations?
So the first place I tell people to do is put it in a high yield savings account. You'll get 4 to 5.5% there right now. It's fully insured, it's fully liquid, and there's no fees.
Is that through a bank? Do they search it up on Google? Like what's something that's
the
brand
best
new?
place to, this is a great question. You can get it through some banks, but the best place to go to just to see what's the best rates, and I'll give you the 3 things to look for, is bankrate.com. They list out all the high yield savings accounts. So the 3 characteristics of a high yield savings account you want: it has to be 100% fully liquid. So it's not locked up for 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, a year. 100% liquid, okay? 2, it needs to be 100% insured. This is money that you're putting aside that you don't want any risk. So if a bank goes under, it's insured, you don't lose the money, okay? 3, there can be no fees. You're giving them your money. They're not charging you to hold your money.
And Bankrate helps you find that?
Yeah, so they'll list them all out. I will tell people, like for me, and I get nothing from it, and I'm not recommending them necessarily. I'm in Wealthfront, okay? It's an online bank. They're insured up to $8 million, 100% liquid, no fees. So, and I'm getting 5 to 5.5%. If I need the money, I have an account linked. I go online, I said transfer the money. It says 48 hours. Literally the next day it's there.
So someone has $5. They go, let's just say they use Wealthfront. Thank you for that recommendation. I know it's not financial advice. We're all good. Mm-hmm. They have $5 in their bank account. So you have it where every week or every month, it's going to take $5 from that bank account without them knowing. So that's, once you set that up, then it's out of mind.
Yeah.
And it's that simple.
Yeah. And that's the beginning.
And I think that's where most people get hung up. Most people think they need to manually send it over. They don't have enough. It's going to cost a big fee to start. And what you just described there is a huge barrier of entrance you just removed. So please continue.
So, and you mentioned something that's really important. Why did they give us credit cards? Not to give us credit. It's not to give us credit. It's to take away the friction from the buying decisions. And they know if they do that, we buy more. Mm-hmm. So the problem is our investing has too much friction.
Wow.
It makes it harder to make the decision. I don't know, which account to open. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And then there's fees. And what do I invest in? There's just too many decisions. There's too much friction, so we don't do it.
Wow.
Our job really is to put friction in the buying and remove friction in the investing. Now it becomes easy. That's why we automate investing, is so we remove the friction. And now it becomes as easy as swiping the credit card to buy something.
So $5 go in every month. You recommend like monthly? Is it off of every paycheck? Is it what's
the ultimate so where I want them to get to, just so you know, I have something called the wealth priority ladder that I go through in the book in detail.
Nice.
I want to get them to a point where they're investing 20 to 25% of their income. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. But we're not going to jump there. We might start with $5 and we're slowly going to increase. So as much as we can do it, I'm going to do it every week, or I'm going to do it every month. Every time I get paid, every time money comes in, I'm going to have it automatically transferred. I want it out of sight, out of mind. I want to remove temptation. The more I can remove emotions out of my money decisions, the better money decisions I make.
Wow. So money's going in there.
Yeah.
What's recommendations now as it starts to compound? They start to add maybe more and more. What's
Yeah.
next steps?
So I look at things from a safety first, growth second perspective, because I want to have a safe foundation. So where do I want people to start? A lot of people say, well, I want to get in real estate. And I love real estate, but I don't love it for the beginner. And the reason I don't love it for the beginner is, one, it takes more money to get in. And two, if I have, let's say I finally accumulate $50,000 and I can buy one property. And I had this happen with a friend. Bought a building, okay? He decided he wanted to do some repair work on the roof. And the contractor comes in and he says, oh, you've got asbestos in the roof. You need to get that taken out. $150,000 repair. Not only that, 3 months of work. He had to have all the tenants move out. So now you put $50,000 in, you have a mortgage on a building, you have no tenants paying rent, you got to continue with the mortgage, and you have a $150,000 bill that you got to pay, and then you got to re-rent it. That's the problem with real estate up front. Once you have critical mass, great. But I need critical mass to give you the liquidity to sustain yourself if you happen to have that bad tenant or a bad repair or something like that. So real estate belongs. I just don't know that I would do it first.
Smart.
So what I would do is I would start to go into just low-cost index funds or ETFs. Okay, and I'll tell you exactly how to do it. Partly because, one, I can get in sooner. I can get in with $500. I don't need $50,000, and I can start the journey of investing.
And really briefly, for those that don't understand index funds, just share a little bit about what that means.
So what I try to avoid, remember safety first, is I don't want you to try and pick stocks. I don't want you to sit back and say, who's the next Amazon?
Yeah, like gambling, throwing money here and there.
So, and statistics have shown that the big hedge fund traders, the smart guys and gals with all the computers, all the algorithms, all the information, long term, over a 15-year period, 84% of the time, they could not do better than just buying the whole stock market. So just buy the whole stock market. Make it easy, make it simple. You'll make 8 to 10% a year.
And that's an index fund.
It's an index
You put
fund.
the money and it gets dispersed out. Is that correct?
So what's happening is this, is that I'm gonna invest in a basket that says, hey, you give us your $1,000 and we're gonna collect $1,000 or $500 from all these people. So we end up with $100,000, and we will go buy a little bit of GE and a little bit of Amazon and a little bit of Tesla and so they put together this portfolio, and now you have little pieces of all those companies, which means that if one goes bad, you don't have a horrible day. And so it's diversifying your risk. It's safer that way. And you have low cost of getting in, and you can get in easy and at a lower rate. So the first thing is to sit back and say, okay, let's just go into something that's easy, that's cost effective, and that there's always risk to investment. But when you look at things on the long term, okay, if you look at things, if you do the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies, it returns about 8% over the long term. If you look at a 10-year period for the S&P 500, 94% of the time it's up. Well, why not invest in something that has a 94% possibility of being up, but you got to hold it for 10 years or more?
So and that's across all index investing, 10 years or more? Or is that only S&P 500?
I look at it for all stock market investing. I want it to be long term. The market goes up and down. like crazy. Now, a bear market is 20% down from the high. A bull market is 20% up from the high. I don't know where they got the bull and bear from, but if you hear that, bear means down, bull means up. That's all they're saying.
Yeah.
And it had a big increase. But here's what they don't tell you. A bear market, the average bear market, meaning it's 20% down and it stays down, lasts 11.4 months. The magnitude of the down is about 30% down, 31%. Okay, so you lose about 31% of value during a bear market on average. Lasts 11 months, it still hurts. But let's look at the bull, 20% up. The average bull market is 4.4 years. Wow. The average up is 156%. But we don't get that perspective. But we need to hold through the down long term so we can participate in the up.
So good. And I hope this is helpful for you listening right now. Like you might be in this position where you hear all these ideas, bull market, bear market, but you just don't know the step by step.
Yeah.
And what you're giving right now, Mel, is a masterclass in itself. I know your whole book does this, but like when you're listening to this, don't discredit yourself. This could be whether it's $5 or $50 or what, like the game is to get started. And I want to have you add one more point to this and then we could pivot because I feel like the last part. So the index 500. So do they have to go and find someone? Is it once again more softwares and companies to work with? Like any recommendations on that?
So here's what I would do. I would look at one of a couple of discount brokers. So I have accounts at Schwab, Vanguard, and Fidelity. Okay, so my Fidelity is my main account. My Schwab has been with me for decades and decades. It's my play account. My Vanguard is a backup account. You don't need all three. But why I picked those three is they are long-standing, they have good products, they have low or no fees, and they do something that they don't do something that others are doing. What I want you to avoid as someone just getting in is any platform that gamifies investing. So like Robinhood got in trouble for this. You know, when you would invest, it would show fireworks or what. I didn't play with Robinhood, but they gamified it. When you gamify investing, you bring emotions back in the game. And when you bring emotions back in the game, you make emotional decisions. Now all of a sudden, it's like here's the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
I got to do it again.
Straight up.
It's like all of a sudden your investing becomes a video game. So I avoid those like the plague.
Wow.
And so all they need to do is you can go to a Vanguard or you can go to a Schwab or you can go to a Fidelity and you can open an account.
And this is someone that we're talking about right now that doesn't have a lot of money.
Don't have a lot of money. You can go online and just go through and open an account. You can put what I would do is step one, put it in a high yield savings account. Now you sit back and say, I've got $500 or so and I want to start investing it. So step two let's open up the account and let's move some of the money to that account so you can invest it. Step three, you're going to want to invest it in some sort of index or ETF. I'm going to avoid mutual funds. Mutual funds have higher fees. ETFs and index funds have very, very low fees. I'm going to tell you what to invest. I'm not going to tell you what to invest. I'm going to tell you what to look for.
Yeah.
And in the book, I break it down.
Yes.
But I want to take as much friction out of it and make it as simple as possible. The simplest thing you can do at the very beginning is to buy something called a target date index fund, where the thinking is done for you. So here's what I mean by this. Right now, and we're filming this is 2024. Let's say you don't need the money that you're putting in. It's long-term money. You don't need it for 30 years. So if you go to Vanguard and you do a search in Vanguard and say 2055, 30 years out, target index fund 2055, do a search, it'll bring up their fund. And they have a fund that is set to mature, just call it mature, but it's not really mature because it'll go beyond that at 2055. And what they do for you is if you buy that, you just buy one fund. It's really aggressive today because you have 30 years. Okay, the market's up 8 out of 10 years. So we don't need the money in the next few years, so it's going to be aggressive. As we get closer and closer to 2055, it gets more and more conservative. But they take care of it all for you. So now I just take that $500, I put it in a 2055 target date fund, and I just get in the game. All I'm trying to do is get you in the game. Later on, we can move things around and get a little more complicated and more, it doesn't make sense if we're not even in the game. So the easiest thing, and I even put it in the book, is to just go one fund, target date, let it ride.
Wow.
And get in the game. And now all of a sudden, and then the last piece of it is then, okay, great. Now I have the automatic money going into the high yield savings account. What I need to do is now automate the money going into the brokerage account and automate the investing going into the fund. So now all of a sudden, all you focus on is making money. Everything else is done in the background.
Just automated.
Yeah. Wow. Low fees, low costs, and
taking us to school.
Yeah. It's powerful.
This is so good. I'm imagining this woman right now in the Midwest in the kitchen, and they're bringing in $50,000 a year, and she's like, I just need to find a way to make money. Is this even feasible for me? And I know that's the mindset a lot of people get into. They're like, I just need to make more money. I just need to double my income. And I've heard you say this, like your habits, like you're just going to take what you're doing now. And even though you're going to be making more money, do you discuss this in the book? Do you train on this?
Yeah. The income, we think, and it's not their fault. We came up with industrial age thinking. We were all told, get a good career, get a good job, build a good business, make money, make money, make money. And we think that the making of the money is the solution to everything, but it's not, okay? Making money is one part of the equation. It was fine in the industrial age, because in the industrial age, we had something called pensions. So you would work loyally for a company for 40 years. And then once you retire, they say, we're going to give you a lifetime of income. You're okay. Now, we started living longer, so they said, wait a second, we can't afford this.
Yeah.
So they dumped it back in our laps. There is no such thing as lifetime of income unless there's some companies that still have pensions, government, and all that stuff. But not very many companies have pension plans. We have to take responsibility for that. So it's not anyone's fault that we're so focused on earnings and thinking that's the solution, but it's no longer the solution. What we need to do is why I titled the book the way I did, is we have to, so we're on an earnings journey, making money. We also have to be on a money journey, making wealth. They're two parallel journeys, but they're different. The earnings journey isn't your wealth. It's the fuel for your wealth. We have to connect the two.
Ooh, and so many people just earn. Like I was raised by a single mom and we just work. Like and it's been in me. Like I'm a grinder, doer, and I love that work ethic. And, if anything happens, I'm good because I'll just find a way and I'll build a way. And that's just my mindset. But when it comes to the wealth side of things, it's like overwhelming, right? Yeah. And it's like, no, I got to focus solely on making more money, and when in fact you should get educated, and that's what you've really broken down so simply is this plan. Yeah, and the what you're trying to ultimately do is separate your ability to earn from the efforts to earn it. Because as a CPA, what did I do? I sold hours. Yeah, I used timesheets. Yeah. So unless I was on the treadmill running, I wasn't making money. So I had to effort to earn. And if I stopped efforting, I stopped earning. There's my CPA colleagues are still doing it. But if I effort to earn and I take a piece of it to build the machine that doesn't require my efforts, that's exactly how when I got the diagnosis, I looked at Stephanie and my son Jeremy, I said, shut everything down. We're shutting it down so my efforting could stop, and my efforting went into healing and fighting and turn the machine on. Now, not draining a savings account. The machine is producing income because of the assets in there. We're living off of the income. The machine still grew during the cancer years. It just didn't grow as fast. And so now it didn't require me on the treadmill. And so like people say, well, why are you still working? Because I love it. Yeah. I get to live a life by choice now.
That's the beauty of doing it. But we have to separate our earnings from the effort to earn it over time. I'm not going to say that it's easy. It takes time.
Yeah.
But it is simple if we just stay in the game. Here's the thing. What people think with wealth, they think that we build wealth linearly. I want to have $1 million. The hardest stage is to make your first 100,000. Because your 100,000 net worth, your 100,000 in wealth requires you to skill up, different mindset, different actions, there's a lot of learning that goes in. If you put $10,000 away a year at 8%, it will take you 7.6 years to make to have $100,000 net worth. Okay? If you kept doing that, it'll take you 20.6 years to make $500,000. Okay, at $10,000 a year. We think it's linear, building our wealth. It's taken 20.6 years to make $500,000. To make the next $500,000 to get you to the million only takes 7.5 years. 1/3 of the time. Why? It's the subtitle of the book. Because the money is working harder for you than you did for it. That's the acceleration zone. The problem is too many of us live in the flat line where we don't see a lot of progress and we don't think it's working. Well, what you're doing is compressing a spring. And when it releases, it's a rocket ship. But the only way to eat that flat line up is time. We got to get in the game. We got to get on the field. We can't be in the stands. We can't be on the side. We got to get on the field. No matter what the dollars are, stay on the field. Stay in the game. Keep playing it. Compress the spring, and then allow time to do the work.
Here's a personal question that comes from everything shared. Actually, what you just described was about to be a question I had about being young and wanting to invest. Like I don't want to wait till I'm 50 or 60, right? And so the way you described it, it answered that. But what came from this is, okay, so you're at a point where you're making $1 million in the fund, right? But you want it to continue to compound.
Yeah.
When do you actually start to pull that money out and use it? And how do you make sure that you're not pulling too much and you just screwed yourself over, but you still have the life you live? So it's not, because personally, my dad, he's worked for 40 years, incredible man. He has great savings. And I think he's pulling a little bit now because he finally retired. But I was like, Dad, you got to eventually use this money. I was like, if not, great, I'll take it, right? I was just being like a little foolish kid because I wanted him to actually enjoy life.
Yeah.
But I struggle with that of when do you actually start pulling the money so you're not a fool losing the compound effect, but not a fool also not enjoying the life?
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing because actually there are those that spent so many years saving, investing. They psychologically have a really hard time transitioning to spending it.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons to have the joy points during the journey because we're still training ourselves to enjoy it. It goes back to the plan, okay? We have a plan to build it. We also have a plan to use it. And so we have to live to the plan. And so one of the things, for us, my wife says, "You ever going to retire?" I go, I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah.
No. I go, I'm not going to. So I'll always speak because I just enjoy it. I'll always write and I make it so, it'll be, but the question really then becomes, well, what do I need the money for? What am I going to use it for? Well, I have a machine that can produce a certain amount of cash flow every year without eroding the machine, without using it up. And that's what we're looking at. In October, I went and I sat with my wealth team. I said, and this is why you hire advisors. And I know there's a lot of bitterness around advisors. They gouge you and you lose millions of dollars. Yes, you can. But I'm not using them to pick my investments. I'm using them to do other things. So one of the things I had them do, I said, I want you to take the portfolio and I want you to stress test the hell out of it. I want you to look at what would happen to this portfolio if the market dropped 50%. If the market dropped 30%, if it went up 30%, if I stopped working, I stopped bringing income in. I want you to look at it from so many different directions and give me the probability of success. Tell me whether we're okay or not. So one of the things you want to do is you build the plan to build it. You have a plan to use it, but then you take that plan and you stress test it because you sit back and go, look, the stock market, Dow Jones it was over 40,000, which is the first time in history. Okay, where could it go? It could drop. It could drop to 30,000. Do you know what's going to happen if it drops to 30,000? I don't know. So let's run the scenario. My dad retired, and shortly after he retired, the market dropped. So all of a sudden, and he wasn't set. He didn't have it done right. He didn't understand it. But all of a sudden, his retirement got shrunk down just because he happened to retire just before a big drop in the market. Well, I think we test it all out. So the answer to the first question of how do we know how much we can draw is working a plan and making sure that you stress tested the plan to make sure that it'll work under a bunch of different scenarios. That's the first piece. The second piece is a psychological piece. It's a mindset piece, is us enjoying the money. There's this fear, and this goes right back to what they taught us is the broken retirement system. They taught us to save, invest, put it in the 401k, put it in the IRA, and just keep going. And then at the end of the time when you decide that you're going to retire, they say, okay, reduce your lifestyle by 30% because your expenses should go down. You're in retirement. No, I think your lifestyle should go up. Right. If I just spent all this time, I want to live large, But let's just say, and then they say, and then spend it down. And that system is a save, reduce, spend, and pray that your life doesn't outlast the money kind of scenario. I don't like that. How about we save, we build a machine, and the machine can generate cash flow. And then when I can live to 90, I can live to 100, and that because I'm not draining 100% of it, it's continuing to replenish itself. It's the crop that regrows.
Again, it's fired up.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, God forbid I'm ready to go. I hand it to Stephanie. She takes it. And then she's ready to go. It goes to my son. And now all of a sudden you become this financial inflection point for your whole family tree. That's the purpose of doing this. Now, with one caveat. We never, ever, ever transfer assets without transferring skill sets first. So my son, he has to earn the right to possess the machine. And if he doesn't get it. Now he has, they're fine. 34 and 30, 2 kids, 3 homes, and a multi-million-dollar net worth. He's got it dialed in. He knows what to do. Brainwashing started at 10 years old with him. Wow. But point being is there will not be a silver spoon baby in my family. And so that's, and I think that we ought to be doing that, bringing our kids into the conversation early. That's the reason that there's an appendix in the book that says conversation starters for our youth.
Wow.
Because we need to have these conversations so we can instill values, we can instill value, and we can give them. Jeremy, at 11 years old, I was giving him a commission. I said, here's what you're going to do with it. 4 things. You're going to give, you're going to save, you're going to invest, and you're going to live. You decide. We're going to set the percentages. On his investing, I then went back and said, whatever you invest, I'll match. And so at 11 years old, he knew what generosity was. He was paying for his lunches and some things. He was saving, and then he was investing. And that's what started the game. But more importantly, it started a different conversation with him. And so it wasn't like, I've been in the martial arts for 40 plus years, but the first demonstration I saw was a judo demonstration as a kid. And I told my mom, I want to train. And my mom says, I don't want you to learn how to fight because then you're going to get in all kinds of fights. And I think some people think that if we talk money to our kids, they're going to become greedy, materialistic little brats. They don't have to be. We can teach them values in the process. It gives us a vehicle to do that. And think about this. There's a kid, Henry, who joined one of my programs at 16 and a half. I had a conversation with his mother. She goes, I don't know. I said, if you don't think it's of value a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, I'll refund you. But get him in it. So he got in it. 6, 7 months ago, we're on one of the calls. He says, I got a job. What do I do? I said, open a Roth IRA. Okay. 3 weeks ago, we're on a call. He says, I funded my Roth IRA. What do I do? I said, okay. How old are you? He says, I said, you're still 17? He says, no, I'm 18 now. I said, all right, how much you funded with? Now I'm thinking he's 18. What do you do? 500, $1,000? He says, I fully funded 2023 and I already funded 2024. I go, wait a second. You're 18. You put 6,500 in for 2023 and 7,000 for 2024 already? He says, yeah. He says, I live at home, so it's kind of easy. Huh? And I go, okay. I said, let me tell you what you did here. I said, you're 18 years old. S&P 500, 8% at 18 years old. Will, by the time you're ready to retire, that's going to go up 107 times. I said, you're already a millionaire. You'll be 1.2, 1.3. If you did nothing, the only thing we have to do is avoid stupid. That's it.
Yeah.
I said, we'll keep doing things, but here's why. If we give these tools to our youth, if we teach our kids about how to do this in financial literacy, they don't have these financial problems because the more time you have, the less money you need. The less time you have, the more money you need. Let's get them early, get them in the game. And now all of a sudden, and the greatest gift we can give our kids is the gift of financial literacy and financial independence. The second greatest is you get me fired up.
I'm fired
up over here.
Yeah.
Is for us to have financial independence.
Yeah.
Because if they're financially independent and we're financially independent, ain't no one showing up on a doorstep saying, I need the couch because I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. And now we empower them.
Oh my gosh. We need to build our money machine.
Yeah.
Like everybody does.
Well, and as you listen to this, I'm so glad you wrote it out, right? Because I love listening to podcasts that give substance. But you also have to understand this is a finite podcast. And that's why people like you, Mel, make books to give the whole process. It's important. If you found that valuable, you're like, oh my gosh, that was helpful, but we're about here. That's why the book is there. Yeah. The book is to allow from steps A to Z of the whole package of building your money machine. It's literally what it's called. That is what a book is for.
Yeah.
I've read books that waste time. I already know this book doesn't waste time. This actually gives time back, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I appreciate you just going in that depth. Some people could try to hold back and say, "No, read the book." I'm like, "No, you're like giving all the steps, but there's so much more in there, and it'll make sense." So I really appreciate you doing that here on the Fortitude Show.
Absolutely. Do you believe in budgeting?
So here's what I say. I call it a cash resource plan. See, budget we think is like a diet. There's no way you deprive yourself to wealth.
Right.
But here's what I believe. It's a permission plan. Here's the mistake that we imagine for a moment. You're going to hire 10 people. So you're bringing 10 people in. They're in the conference room. It's their first day of work. And you sit back and say, listen, you probably noticed that we do things differently here. I didn't give you a job title. I didn't give you a job description. I didn't give you roles. I didn't give you goals. And I'm not giving you tasks. But in the next 12 months, I'd love to double the business. How successful do you think you're going to be? Yeah, not at all. That's what we do with our money. See, we wait till the money comes in, and then we decide what we're going to do with it. And temptation comes in, and all kinds of things come in. So what we should be doing is every dollar that comes into our life needs to have a job description. It needs to have a role. It needs to have a task. But the most important part of that is just like someone you're hiring, you set the job description before you hire them. It's the same thing with your money. You have to give it the role before you ever earn it. And when you do it that way, when the money comes in, it's already spoken for. This is for the mortgage. This is for rent. This is for clothes. This is for this. And here's the beautiful thing. Say you have $200 in that plan for a night out on the town, okay? You go out, spend the $200 and everything. Normally, if you didn't do that, you spend the $200 and you're going home going, it's on the credit card, and all of a sudden you're sitting there with guilt, shame, and all the emotions around it and going, should I have done that? But if you put it in the plan, you have permission to spend it. It's already there. There's no guilt, there's no shame around it. You're living the plan. And that's why I look at it that way.
Do you talk about the plan in the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was talking to a girlfriend that they were going to Europe and like finances were different. Her husband lost a couple of clients and it was like it was weird. She was so excited to go to this trip to Italy, but simultaneously like guilty.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to get some new outfits for it, but like, I don't want to spend the money. And I was like, oh my God, you know? And it's like, again, there's no plan.
Yeah. And now that guilt's it's gonna erode the experience. And here's the interesting thing, working with people starting out to billionaires, every single one of them have some level of shame or guilt around money. Because they have it, because they don't have it, because they have it and someone in their family doesn't have it. There's just all this emotion around it. And I thought originally that I was just going to do the math behind wealth. I'm an accountant. Let me give you the columns and rows and the mathematics. But I quickly found out that if I didn't figure out the stuff between the years, I couldn't figure out the stuff in the pocketbook. So we have to deal with it.
What's your belief around credit cards?
I use them. So here's my belief around debt. Okay, there's two. No, I don't believe all debt's the devil. Okay, but all debt has two characteristics, same characteristics. One is that it all costs. It's called interest. Okay. Two is it all stresses. So it stresses you financially and it stresses you psychologically. So those are the two costs no matter what kind of debt it is. There's destructive debt, there's productive debt. Destructive debt is the debt we use to finance our lifestyle. It is for consumables. It's for the momentary pleasures. It's for the stuff that we can't afford today. And why do they give us payments? No friction in the buying decision. When you walk onto a car dealership and they say, what payment do you want? See, the game they're playing is to pay the payment game. It's cutting you off one digit at a time. And so that kind of stuff is destructive debt. I avoid it like the plague, okay? Lifestyle stuff, we don't finance lifestyle. If we can't do it with cash, we don't do it. Productive debt, on the other hand, is debt that's used to build wealth or cash flow. So it could be a mortgage on a rental property. It could be a piece of equipment. It could be putting Facebook ads on a credit card that you're going to get a multiple back in sales, okay? So I look at it from that direction. Now, I don't like carrying balances on credit cards, even if it's productive debt. I use my credit cards all the time, okay? But I don't carry balances on them. Now, there are studies that show that even when you pay off credit cards every month, because you're using the credit card, you'll overspend because of the lack of friction. So you have to be aware of it, okay? But I use credit. I don't believe that you're burning credit cards. Now, if you have a spending problem, like if I had a client that sat back, and I did this with one client years ago, they were having a spending problem. They couldn't. I can't let go. Here's what I want you to do with your credit cards. I said, you're going to take your credit cards, you're going to put it in a coffee can. You're going to fill the coffee can with water. You're going to put it in the freezer. You're going to freeze the credit cards. You want to go do a purchase decision? You bring that coffee can out. Now it's metal. You can't put it in the microwave. And put it on the counter. Once it thaws out and you can get access to the credit card, you still want to make that purchase, let's talk about it and you can go make the purchase. But I needed to put some space between the emotion and the logic of the purchase. So if you have problems and you can't handle it, we got to do some things to facilitate the discipline and the behaviors to not overspend or overuse a credit card. Because if we're putting ourselves in a hole every month, then we can't get out of it. Otherwise, I don't think you can use them. We just don't carry balances on them. You use them responsibly.
What's your take on investing in personal development, masterminds, things like that? You know, you've got the camp of people that just keep doing it.
So this is a great question. I get it all the time. Hey, is this an expense or an investment? And the answer is, it depends on you. When you invest in personal development, mastermind, coaching, you actually are in control of what you take away from it. If I go into a mastermind or a course and I don't use any of it, It's not the course's fault. It's mine. So I'm in control of the return on investment on that. So I look at it and say, you tell me. And just like any other investment, when you go into an investment, you want to know what your exit is before you get in, okay? And so if I'm going to go invest $20,000 into a mastermind, what is the expected outcome of that mastermind? How do I know that it was successful for me? Is it because I'm going to get a contact at this or that? And use that as the metric. And now you say, okay, I know that I spend $20,000, I'm going to get this out of it. And that's the metric. And then you ask the second question, what do I need to do? How do I need to show up to make sure that I get that out of it? And now it becomes an investment. Otherwise, it's just an expense. And I'm one of those that if I go in for a massage, give me a deep tissue massage. I mean, like, I want to know you worked me.
Same.
Okay.
Same.
This surface stuff on the skin
no.
is like,
Same,
no.
bro.
No.
So if I'm going into a mastermind or something,
Yeah.
I want to know that I got worked. I want
Yeah.
to know that I got challenged and that I got something out of it. Otherwise, it doesn't
Waste.
really give us anything. Yeah.
What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made?
Oh, well, the biggest mistake was I made an investment in 2005. I ignored my rules. I ignored the voice, and the investment turned into a Ponzi scheme. Actually, probably didn't turn into. It was a Ponzi scheme to begin with. I didn't know it. Ignored it all. I wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned. Between me and two friends, we lost over $4.5 million.
How'd you get out of it? What does that do for your ego?
Oh my God. Just for a guy like me,
Yeah.
I'm going, turn in your license, stop doing what you're doing. You're an idiot. You're a loser, I mean, it was horrible. So there was 3 of us. There was more than that in it, but the 3 of us that got into it, one of them was retired. And so he just changed his life a little bit and kept on living. He had the smallest investment out of all of us in there. The other one who got us into it was in it the longest. He spiraled into resentment. He destroyed his marriage. He destroyed his business, and then he got into drinking, destroyed the liver. He's now coming out of it. This is 2005, 2006. So you're looking at a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was me. Jeremy was 15 years old at the time. And I was spiraling too, because I was telling myself all these stories about how could you do it? How could you do it? And someone said to me, just remember, Jeremy's watching. And he's going to look at things and say, this is how you deal with adversity. What do you want to teach him? I go, so I sat him down and I said, here's what happened. It's not feeling good. It's not going to destroy us. But we have to work back, and we're going to work back. So I had to look, and this is the interesting thing. And a lot of us are probably feeling this. We've made bad decisions or wrong decisions or no decisions with our money, and so we start beating ourselves up. We start blaming ourselves. So blame solidifies our stance where we're at. It freezes us. It doesn't move us forward. So I looked at it and I said, once I was willing to accept my role in the Ponzi scheme, but not the blame for the Ponzi scheme, I was willing to find the lessons and grow from it and heal from it. And it's what some of the lessons or the rules that are in the book came out of it. And look, if I'm going to spend well over $1 million getting an education, y'all get an education from me and don't spend $1 million,
That's right.
And so what I had to do is sit back and say, what did I ignore? How did I get caught in it? How I got caught into it is I allowed the emotions to come in. He was a con man. He talked about the aspiration and the returns and all of this stuff. And I went and did a spreadsheet. I'm going, look at this, it's growing like this. I'm going to make all kinds of money. And I was stirring up the emotions. I'm making these emotional decisions. I gave him more money. And never came back.
And was it investments? Was it property?
What he was saying he was doing?
This was before the crypto era.
Yeah, it was before crypto. So what he was saying he was doing was buying distressed assets from companies that were going under and then selling them on a bidding site. And like he had all the paperwork, and there was this bidding site called DoveBid, and so I could look at it,
Jeez.
you know, and so he did all that, and then he did the full court press. Like he had a birthday party for his dad. He lived on the bluff in Malibu.
Oh, he wined and dined you.
God. We're all there, you know, at this party. He has fireworks out in the ocean.
Stop.
John Michael Montgomery's playing
Oh, my
there.
word.
You know, I'm like going, this is the life. You know, I'm going, how much do you need? I'm
Right.
like, oh my God. So, but here's the other side of it. Once I kind of righted the ship and said, all right, how do I rebuild? What did they not take from me? They took money, but they didn't take skills. They didn't take my ability to learn. So 18 months from that so that was 2005, 2006. And so by the time we hit 2008, I not only recovered what I lost, but I tripled it and didn't look back.
Come on.
Yeah.
You talk about this in the book?
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because people don't realize that the biggest messes that they go through become the message they'll soon teach.
Yeah.
And they're going to experience this and that. And I'm excited to be able to read that. We just met like literally, like, I don't even know, not long before this episode. And so everything was so fast, but dude, you are fascinating. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I really respect the way that you talk to human emotions, and you know that that's a primal drive versus just, like you said, what are we doing? Chasing statistics?
Yeah.
No, we're chasing a feeling. We're chasing an experience, especially with loved ones. And you really do package that so well. I'm beyond impressed. I knew about you. I knew that you walk with great people, with some of the biggest speakers in the world. You're speaking next to them. But to really see it and experience the first time, I hope the listener as well feels this. Because you're not just a CPA, you're not just a financial guy. You are a very inspirational leader that is talking on a thing that most people don't really know, and including me. I'm always learning every single day, so I learned a lot from you.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. This is just a joy.
I hope everyone is super inspired to get the book, Building Your Money Machine. Where can they get it?
Go to yourmoneymachinebook.com.
Okay.
On there, you'll see some booksellers, all the different booksellers, and you'll order it from there. But then come back and put your receipt in, and I have a bunch of bonuses and resources to help you. Because here's the thing: I want you to get the book. I want you to read the book, but more importantly, I want you to do the book. So I wanted to help you do the book. If I get you to do the book and integrate it in your life, will change your life. And so that's why I did it the way I did it.
Love it.
We'll make sure we go to that link.
Yes, get the book. And I also think you should get it for a loved one. There's nothing like getting them a book that's actually going to change their life. So think of someone right now that has been complaining about money, or maybe they're doing well and they have a great work ethic, but you know that they're not investing smart. You know maybe that they're overspending. Get this book as a gift as well, and then do it together. Co-labor together as you're going through it. Whether you have your own mastermind or your own development program. I think this is really something to share with everyone that you serve. I know we're sharing it here on the pod, but also on our social media accounts. So get the book, tag Mel Abraham, tag It's Emily, tag Jake Havron. And we want to see there's diagrams in here. Like, I cannot wait to get into this and to utilize it. And I do want to share, as you came in here, and there's entrepreneurs, authors, all kinds of people listening to this who either have written books, they want to write a book. It's a lot of work. I'm in the middle of doing it, and you blessed me. You blessed me so much. I think God spoke to you, through you, to me, because the book game is also a business game. Yeah. And when you spend so much time, energy, effort putting your body of work together, you can oftentimes get so caught up in the business of the book, and you forget why you wrote it in the first place. And just listening to why you wrote this, your heart behind it. I always say God knows the motives of your heart, the true intent. Yeah. This is your legacy work. And I just pray that it gets into so many lives, millions of lives, because ultimately it's not only just going to change your finances, it's going to change your home life. It's going to change your marriage. Like, this does matter. And so if there's conflict, if you have weird feelings around it, get the book. But I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of you, and we're honored to know you and to have you in here. And now, we're kind of neighbors.
Yeah.
So, yay.
Kind of like that. Mel, my friend, if there was one thing that you would leave someone with after this incredible interview and they had amnesia besides this one thing, what would that be?
I think to realize that each of us were brought here and given a gift. And that our job while we're here is to nurture that gift, to develop the gift, to build the gift. Having financial freedom gives us the opportunity to do that and do it in a big way. But the challenge is this, is that we have to live the gift. We got to live each moment and make each moment matter, because it's the stacking of the moments that really are clear. I mean, I talk about legacy in the book. The fact of the matter is legacy isn't something we build for someone. Legacy is something we leave in someone. And we do that by making each moment matter. And on that last day of your life, what you want to do with that gift is sitting back, you're looking back. I want to look back at the people I shared life with, the people that I love with, and be sweaty, dirty, tired, look back at them and go, I did it my way. I did it all. And I take the gift and I hand it off and I said, it's your turn now. Take it the next step and jump in. That's what we should do. Live a life that outlives us.
There's not much more beautiful than having a legacy that helps other people create a legacy. It's a beautiful way to end this. We thank you for being here. Make sure you go find Mel Abraham. Go to his book site. You'll see all the details in the show notes. But until then, we'll see you in the next episode on the Fortitude Show. God bless, and thank you for listening.